Good evening, everyone. Right, for those of you who don't know us, I'm Abby, and yes, this is OT Adventure Toller's channel, but we also share some of our other animals. So, apart from Merlin, who wants all the attention, don't need the legs, we have got the Axolotl gang. So in here we've got Jax. He is a natural coloration. I have got Lottie at the back there, who's a leucistic. And somewhere, oh, I can just see a tail. There we go, a tail. That's Jellybean, and he's a copper. And it is their feeding time. So I need to get on it and give them some food. Please excuse the state of the tank at the moment. I'm desperately needing to find the time to give it a really good clear out before the winter. I thought I'd be able to get it done today. It's been pouring with rain, so hopefully I'll get that done tomorrow. But for now, they'd like some dinner. So let's pop you there with Lottie for a minute, whilst I've got the worms ready. So, they're eating dendro worms, which I've taken out the tub of soil. I keep them in various tubs, work my way through and then order more. I used to have worm farms, but when we get very warm here in the summer, I struggle to keep them same as when we get very cold. So I've now found it's easier to buy smaller quantities and just feed when I need to. So I keep them in various sort of fishing tackle boxes, take them out, wash them off of soil. I don't make sure they're meticulous. As you can see, we've got quite a lot of live plants in this tank. So there is dirt and debris around. That's just life. So I'm not overly sort of fussed about it. I like my animals to have a fairly naturalistic environment if I can. So you can see we've got right up to the floating weed on the top there. There are artificial plants in here too. Mainly because the live ones do very well until someone squashes them or lands on them. So I'm going to get some worms in and let's see how hungry these guys are. Aha, there's Jellybean. He's obviously heard there's food around. So as Jax is up front here first, I will pop a couple of worms into him. So I feed mine 2 or 3 times a week. If I'm away on holiday, they'll go a week without, with someone just checking up on them. Any more than that, and I have someone feed them. But it's very easy to overfeed axolotl. You see them on various sort of pages on the internet, way too fat, often with worms coming out of their gills and things, because they've literally just eaten too much. So I give them as much as they can eat, 2 or 3 times a week. That way I also know that they all get their amount. I haven't got time to... Let's see where he lands. And you can see why our plants get trashed. So we'll wait for him to sort himself out. I haven't got time to hand feed worms, dangling them into their mouths each day. And if I just put the worms in, so say they should have 2 worms a day each. If I put 6 in there, Jax will eat 4. The other 2 might get 1 each. Lottie might eat both. So that's why I give more than they can eat, less often. And then I know that they've all had their fill. I learnt that from the Axolotl and Reptile Rescue, which is where Jellybean comes from. So my other 2 are 5.5 years old now, brothers, and came from a university student in Exeter who breeds them. We reckon Jellybean's around the same age. I got him during COVID when the rescues were just filling up. They didn't know what to do with so many. And I said, I'd gone up to a size tank. I said, yep, I've got room. So you can see this tank is 3 foot by 2 foot by a foot. And there's plenty of room for 3 axolotls but I couldn't get away with more. Now they've just gone and been a little bit awkward in that those two are sat right next to each other. I try not to feed them when they're right next to each other because that's when accidental nips can happen. So let's put something in for Jellybean. Now Jellybean is a little bit of a secret eater. He doesn't always eat in front of us. Oh, I say that, and he is hungry today. Well, there you go. That's obviously why he's come out. He will often hide amongst the plants. And you see him eat, but you just see his head bobbing around. Now that was a very large worm. In all honesty, it was probably too large for him, one of those, because I'd got them ready for Jax. So we'll see whether he manages a smaller one in a little while. So I've got Lottie peering at me from under there. I don't know if I can get them down to his actual head. Let's give some to Jax first then. So Jax has tried to see. You really are very badly coordinated, Jax. There we go. So that's him grabbed one, and look how quickly that's gone down. These worms, I must say, they're not as keen on them. They're from my same people as normal, and they will eat them, but they're just... I think I've had to get mediums for a while because they just haven't had the larges in. And whether they've got used to the change in size, that could be something to do with it, and they're now just struggling a bit with these larger ones. I'm not going to put any more worms in for a minute. Let's just watch how they get on with these. Because usually Jax would eat about 4 or 5 of these. Lottie would eat 3, maybe 4, and Jellybean would eat about 3. So I usually put in a couple more than that, like I say, to make sure that they can all have as much as they want. I've been putting more in because they've been smaller worms. Jax is just pondering. Well, it gets a bit silly when worms are actually trying to feed themselves to the axolotls. He's just trying to decide there, isn't he? Now, I knew they were likely to be hungry because it's been 4 days since I fed them last. And they did have a very good feed then. Lottie is looking hungry, but the one he wants has now gone into a plant. So it's whether he goes and finds another one. Sorry, you can just hear Merlin and the cats playing through there. What they have missed lately is shrimp. The last 2 times I've gone to buy shrimp for them, the shop hasn't had any in, which has been a real shame. I was talking about floofs in one of my videos, I think last week or the week before. Lotties sometimes look amazing, sometimes look rubbish. But they can look really pretty good. Jellybeans always look the same, and Jax can vary. And people go on about how it's your water quality and everything else. I don't really think it is, to be perfectly honest, because these are 3 axolotls living in the same aquarium with the same water, fed the same thing. Aha! They're struggling with the size of them, aren't they? I don't know if it's anything to do with the taste or if it is just for size. They will eat them eventually, but... Okay, let me see if I can find some slightly smaller ones. Right, we've got a couple of smaller ones. Let's see whether they can manage those a bit better. Actually, that one's still not particularly small. So you can see they are hungry. They're just not so keen on these worms. Chuck another one back towards Jelly Bean. And it's not the sand. They've been on sand since they were old enough to be on sand. They much prefer it. They don't like their feet sort of slipping. How strange. It's no good staring at me, Jax. I haven't got anything else to offer. You don't like pellets. Right, while those two are thinking about things, I'll just drop in a couple more for Jelly Bean. Now, if you can... Yeah, I was going to say 3 at once is definitely pushing your luck, Jax. But again, remember, it doesn't do them any harm having to wait and hunt a bit like this. This is natural behaviour. This is good for them. This is why my axolotls aren't overweight. I'm just a bit worried if they're not so keen on that flavour. He's really telling me off, isn't he? He's coming up to the front and glaring at me. Oi, mother, I don't like these worms. But they did eat the last lot, which were from the same livery. Let's leave him having a little bit of... Hello, gorgeous. You shouldn't have favourites, should you? No. There is something a bit special about him. They're all lovely. They all have their own externalities, as I call them. So now the trouble is, Lottie wants to try and get another one, but Jax is stood on them, which isn't so helpful. I've been leaving the GoPro on to do lives of these overnight, but where I used to leave the phone for lives, and they were really quite popular, if I'm using the GoPro, there doesn't seem to be a way of putting a thumbnail in, so no one knows really what video is about. Yeah, he's still not actually eaten that one. Let's pop some down for Jelly Bean. So none of those landed particularly ideally. Let's try one more. So I've got too many worms out. If I'd known they weren't going to eat them like this, I wouldn't have got so many out. That's fine. I can put more back in the container. He's got one wriggling about underneath him. Now, other people say, well, don't you end up with worms dying in there and things? I think I've had it happen a couple of times in 5 years. So, no, it's not a major issue. They do eventually eat them. I think sometimes they get a bit fussy, and then later on they sort of go, oh, well, actually, that's all that's on offer. Yeah, we'll eat those. These guys are very expensive worms. And they're the size you used to really like. So I'd really quite like it if you actually ate them. I'll see if I can just drop one down near a Lottie. And then I think we might almost have to call it quits. No. No, well, I'm going to have to keep an eye on these for the evening. Obviously, if they really don't like these worms, I'll have to get some more. Yeah, see, Lottie's just taken that one in and spat it out. This really is very unusual for my guys. Sometimes, when I think they're ready for a good feed, they don't always want to eat. But that's a different thing. This actually not liking this batch of worms is far more unusual. I could go and get a couple from the garden. I very, very rarely feed from the garden because you have to worry about, obviously, pesticides and things. I can limit what's in my garden. I can't limit when the worms have come from elsewhere. But I do have a couple of plant pots, very deep ones, but the worms in there tend to stay in there. So if I need to use any, I'll use them from there. In fact, I might go and get a couple and see if they like something a bit different, because this really is strange behaviour. Okay, I've just gone and got a couple of worms from the garden just to see, out of interest, and to see whether I need to buy a new batch, whether they have any interest in these or not. Okay, so that one's fallen quite a long way out of reach, but let's just go back to Jack's. He's having another go at one of the original worms. Yeah, he is hungry. Right, let's put in... I need to get the tongs. Hold on. Get the tongs, see if what Jax makes of this one. So this is the one from the garden. Now the trouble is, it's going to be a case of whether he actually goes for it, because he's had ones that he didn't like the taste of. So this is the one from the garden. No. This is strange. Oh, but he... Actually, he's gone back to that one. Yeah, he did like that one. I think maybe he rejected it a bit quicker than he wanted to. You'll have to grab it, Jack, or it'll be gone. This is one of the reasons I don't like using ones for the garden. They're a bit more savvy and they hide. I've got one of the original ones approaching Jelly Bean there. I don't know whether he is hungry still or not. This really is strange. Occasionally there'll be one which fluid comes out of that they don't like, and then they won't eat for the rest of that day because it puts them off and they say no thank you. To have them reject all of them like this is really, really unusual. Now Jax is almost having a little bit of a tantrum. He's obviously hungry. He's stamping his little feet and fluffing his floofs. I've got nothing else to offer you guys. I will put the last ones of these in because these are much smaller. I'm left with a few stragglers. Let's see if they can do anything with these. Otherwise, I'm going to have to give the whole tank a big clear out tomorrow. Take out all the worms if they're not going to eat them. And start again from scratch. Well, that was a rubbish aim from me, wasn't it? Right, let's leave them for 10 minutes or so and come back and see whether anything's changed. So they're all prowling around the tank, obviously still hungry. We'll see if they decide to try any more. How do they make me feel so guilty? I haven't got anything else to offer you guys. I can order more worms, that's not a problem. But the trouble is, they may well be the same batch as we've just ordered from. And you did eat them last time. You did. The only difference being I've put them in a tub, as usual, with some fish food, as usual. Same tub of fish food, hasn't gone off. Same worms, same soil. That was almost elegant, Jax. Well done, mate. I think someone might be sulking. Whilst he's trying to decide what to do, whether he's got the energy to get over the log, whether he's got energy to try and eat the worm that's in front of him. But actually that worm keeps tucking itself under wood, which makes it a bit tricky to get hold of. But again, this is good for them. This having to go and find the worms is good for them. What I'm not liking is that they don't seem to like the taste of them when they do get hold of them. Jax is actually pretty agile. But you can see why it can be tricky keeping live plants with axolotls. They do trash them. Right, Lottie's decided to barge his way through the plant rather than go overwood. Right. Indecisive. Right, so he's eyeing up this worm down here, but he's now got to figure out how to get to it. It does amaze me if the worms actually seem to feed themselves to axolotls, even with all these hiding spaces and plants and things around. I do love watching them. They're definitely an unusual pet. If you're someone who wants to stroke and cuddle your pets, these aren't for you. If you want animals, they do actually interact with me. You can see they come up and ask for food, they want attention, they like watching the TV. Not that they like specific programmes, obviously, they just like the colours and movement. But yeah, I think they're fascinating pets. They're not too difficult to keep when they eat their worms. Hey, little man. These two do interact with me far more than Jellybean does. I think I got these at 6 months old, and I think it probably is quite important you get them quite young if you want that sort of almost recognising you sort of behaviour. But having said that, I think Jellybean is absolutely lovely, and we wouldn't be without him. What I will say though is they're massive time wasters. I've got so much to do this evening. I'm not doing it because I'm watching Axolotl. But it's lovely when they are up all sort of with me like this. It doesn't always happen. And often it happens after feeding. I've managed to capture Jack swimming up to the surface a couple of times today. Lottie is in the position he's often in when he wants to do that. He's thinking about it, isn't he? But when they go so quickly if I haven't already got the camera on, which obviously I don't normally have. You're too much under the plants, Lottie. You won't get up like that. You need to give yourself space. I didn't say they were the most intelligent of creatures. If they were, they wouldn't be going extinct, would they? Okay, and he's thinking about it. It's because this plant is floating above him. That's what is putting things off. And this is why I need to redo the whole aquarium. Some people say you shouldn't have a deep aquarium with them. I would agree with that with babies, but with the adults, mine have never had an issue getting up to the surface, particularly with There we go, with so many levels in. So I would say this is an indication for me that I've seen both of them going up for air in a short space of time and not eating, that I need to give the aquarium a good clean out and just make sure the parameters are all correct. I wasn't here yesterday, I was out, but with Storm Bert we did have power cuts. So it might just be the filter was off for a bit too long, that something's going on. So there we go, I think I'll give them all a good clean out. So we will leave it at that for today. They will eat what they want to eat. I bet you as soon as I put the phone down, they will start eating. It's how it normally works. But I hope you've enjoyed meeting my axolotl, if you haven't met them before, or catching up with them if you do know them well. So it's Jax, Lottie and Jellybean. And hopefully we'll see you all again soon. Hey Lottie, you've come to say goodbye. So take care everyone, and catch up soon.